The moment the keys, well, the electronic fob and the traditional brass ones, landed in my palm, it felt like reaching the summit. Years of dreaming, saving, researching, culminating in this. A Hallberg Rossi 44. Not just any HR-44, mind you, but one described as immaculate. Low engine hours, gleaming gel coat, standing rigging still looking fresh from the factory. It was the Blue Water dream, packaged in Swedish precision engineering. The surveys were glowing, the sea trial flawless. The negotiation was tough, but fair, or so I thought. I'd budgeted meticulously for the purchase price, survey, insurance, initial berthing, the big obvious numbers. What I hadn't truly factored in, what nobody really spells out in the glossy brochure or even the usually candid owner forms, was the cascade of costs that followed. Not the running costs exactly, fuel, marina fees, the annual haul out. We all know about those. I'm talking about the hidden costs, the oh by the ways, the you'll probably want tos, the things that transform that agreed purchase price into a mere down payment on the actual cost of getting a boat like this truly ready and keeping it that way. This isn't about complaining, it's about sharing the unvarnished reality for fellow experienced sailors contemplating a similar leap. Because even an immaculate Hallberg Rossi comes with a financial wake you don't see until you're already sailing. The first surprise came during the handover and commissioning phase, even though it was a brokerage boat. The previous owner had kept it beautifully, but tailored to his specific, perhaps less demanding, cruising style. That standard equipment list suddenly felt minimalist. Take the sail plan. It came with a standard slab reefing main and a decent head sail. Perfectly functional. But the allure of the effortless sailing promised by the HR-44 reviews, often featuring in-mast furling, began to whisper. I inquired. Retrofitting an in-mast furling system from Selden, the typical OEM supplier, wasn't just a matter of swapping the mast extrusion. It involves a completely different mainsail cut, internal mechanisms, control lines led aft, often requiring new clutches, potentially reinforced gooseneck fittings, and crucially, an additional electric winch dedicated to the outhaul to handle the loads properly, especially in breeze. The quote, including the specialized sail and the high-torque Lumar electric winch, approached 25,000 euros. Suddenly, effortless had a very tangible price tag. We stuck with slab reefing, but the mental calculation had begun. What other standards were actually costly options I'd eventually crave? Then there was the matter of light air performance. The standard jib is robust, designed for typical force 4 to 6 conditions, but for ghosting along in the Mediterranean or crossing doldrums, you need more canvas. A Code Zero, flown off the integrated bowsprit, is almost a necessity for making decent passage speeds in under 10 knots of true wind. This wasn't just buying a sail, it required the sail itself. A quality laminate sail from a reputable loft like North or Elvstrom easily hits 8,000 to 10,000 euros. A dedicated furler, Facnor or Selden CX, adding another 2,500 to 3,500 euros. Specific sheets with low-stretch Dyneema core, potentially upgraded blocks to handle the different angles and loads, and ensuring the halyard was suitable, often a 2-to-1 purchase system for tensioning, requiring a specific low-stretch halyard and potentially masthead modifications, if not already provisioned. The Code Zero package wasn't just a sail, it was a system costing upwards of 15,000 euros installed. We opted for it, realizing that without it, coastal cruising enjoyment and passage-making efficiency would be significantly compromised. Let's talk teak, that beautiful golden deck. It's synonymous with Hallberg Rossi. Surely standard. On the 44th, it was an option. A very, very expensive option when new. Think 40,000 euros or more. Mine had it, thankfully, adding significant value. But the hidden cost here is maintenance. It's not just scrubbing with salt water. It's the eventual recaulking as the Thiokol, or modern equivalent sealant, degrades under UV, a meticulous, labor-intensive job costing thousands. It's the risk of fastenings weeping, allowing moisture into the balsa or foam core below. A nightmare scenario requiring localized deck surgery. It's the gentle sanding every few years to restore the non-slip texture, removing precious millimeters each time. And it's the eventual replacement, a job costing potentially 50,000 to 70,000 euros or more, depending on the yard. Those beautiful stainless steel non-slip strips on the combing, designed to protect the teak, a 1,700 euro option new, and something you pray the previous owner specified. Even the little things add up. Those lovely teak push pit seats, the best spot on the boat, a 4,000 euro option, likely involving reinforcing the stainless steel structure, not just bolting on wood. The outboard bracket on the push pit, 850 euros. Suddenly, wood feels very precious. The electronic suite is another area where standard quickly becomes basic. The boat came with a perfectly functional Raymarine plotter at the helm, VHF, in basic sailing instruments, depth, speed, wind. But for serious offshore work or even comfortable coastal cruising, you start adding layers. Radar, essential for fog or night passages. That's not just the dome, around 2,000 to 3,000 euros for a quantum Doppler unit, but also potentially a dedicated mast mount, complex cabling runs, and integration into the MFD network. AIS transceiver, absolutely critical for collision avoidance in busy waters. Another 800 to 1,200 euros, plus installation and antenna splitter or dedicated antenna. An upgraded autopilot. The standard unit might suffice for coastal hops, but for long-distance, heavy weather steering, a more powerful, redundant system, like upgrading the Raymarine EV Core in-drive unit, or even considering a secondary independent system, is often desired. This can easily run 5,000 to 8,000 euros, involving beefier hydraulic or linear drives and potentially separate control heads. Then there's communication, SSB for offshore email and weather fax, less common now but still valued by some traditionalists, or more likely a satellite communication system like Iridium Go or Starlink Maritime. Starlink, while revolutionary, involves significant hardware costs, currently around 2,500 to 5,000 for the flat, high-performance dish suitable for marine use, and substantial monthly data fees, 250 to 5,000 depending on data needs, plus custom mounting solutions. Even seemingly small upgrades, like adding extra multi-function displays in the cockpit or at the nav station, add up quickly when you factor in the displays themselves, 1,000 euros plus each, network cabling, and installation time. Power management is perhaps the biggest hidden cost area on a modern cruising yacht, especially one built for comfort. The standard battery setup might be adequate for weekend sailing, but extended cruising, especially with power-hungry systems like refrigeration, water makers, and autopilots, demands a significant upgrade. The previous owner of my HR-44 had thankfully opted for the factory lithium package, a staggering 42,000 euro option. This wasn't just the Life PO4 batteries themselves, though several hundred amp hours of quality lithium cells represent a huge chunk of that cost, but a complete system overhaul. It includes sophisticated battery management systems, BMS, crucial for safety and longevity, upgraded high-output alternators with external regulators, like Balmar units, to charge them quickly, DC-DC converters to protect sensitive electronics, specific shore power chargers compatible with lithium charging profiles, and often a complete rewiring of the primary charging circuits. If the boat hadn't had this package, retrofitting a comparable system would likely cost even more aftermarket, involving significant labor to integrate everything seamlessly. Even adding substantial solar capacity isn't trivial. The factory option for panels integrated into the hardtop was 3,700 euros, but often provides only trickle charging, maybe 200 to 300 watts. Adding a substantial array, say 600 to 1,000 watts, on an arch or custom mounts involves the panels themselves. High-efficiency MPPT controllers, like Victron, smart solar units, heavy-gauge wiring runs, and the fabrication of the mounting structure itself. Easily another 5,000 to 10,000 euros. And then there's the generator. The optional 8-kilowatt Fisher Panda genset was a 27,000 euro add-on, essential if you plan to run air conditioning or other high-load appliances away from the dock, but a major expense in purchase installation complexity, exhaust, fuel lines, soundproofing, and ongoing maintenance. Water independence is another Blue Water essential. The optional Spectra WaterMaker installation cost the original owner €18,300. These are complex systems, especially the energy recovery types like Spectra, requiring dedicated through holes, high-pressure plumbing, pre-filters, membranes, and control systems. While they sip power compared to older designs, they still represent a significant draw and require meticulous maintenance, pickling, filter changes to avoid costly membrane replacement. Skipping the WaterMaker means relying solely on tankage, limiting autonomy, and requiring careful water management or frequent stops for refills. Then there's climate control. Air conditioning, often multiple units for different cabin zones, was an €18,000 option. It necessitates the generator for operation away from shore power and involves extensive ducting, seawater cooling pumps, and significant power wiring. Conversely, for colder climates, a diesel heater like a Webasto or Eberspacher is essential. The €4,200 option price reflects not just the heater unit, but the complex installation of fuel lines, exhaust systems, critical for safety, and warm air ducting throughout the boat. Even seemingly simple comforts add up. That optional deep freezer, €4,000. An electric head instead of a manual Jabsco, €1,000 per head, plus the associated wiring and potential need for larger holding tanks or more complex plumbing. The factory even charged €750 just to leave an opening for a microwave and install an outlet, requiring the owner to source and secure the appliance itself. It highlights how every convenience, every deviation from the absolute base boat carries a premium price tag, often far exceeding the retail cost of the component itself due to the integration and installation labor involved in a high-quality build like Hallberg Rassys. Beyond the initial setup and upgrades, the ongoing costs associated with a vessel of this caliber also contain hidden depths. Annual maintenance isn't just slapping on a coat of anti-foul and changing the oil. For a Hallberg Rassy 44, maintaining its condition and systems to the expected standard requires a more rigorous and expensive approach. Take engine servicing. The Volvo Penta D275, a common choice, requires regular oil and filter changes, but also periodic checks of the heat exchanger, exhaust elbow, a known potential failure point, sail drive seals, if applicable, and valve clearances. A comprehensive annual engine sail drive service by a certified Volvo technician can easily exceed €1,000 to €1,500, not including any unexpected repairs. Rigging is another significant factor. While the initial rig might last 10 to 15 years with careful inspection, insurance companies often mandate standing rigging replacement at specific intervals for offshore passages, regardless of apparent condition. Replacing the standing rigging, wire, terminals, turnbuckles, on a 44-foot masthead rig like the HR-44s, including labor, is likely a €15,000 to €25,000 job, depending on material choices, e.g. die-form wire, and the rigger. Running rigging, especially high-tech lines like Dyneema used for halyards and control lines, suffers from UV degradation and chafe, requiring replacement every 5 to 8 years, costing several €1,000s for a full set. Sail maintenance is also crucial. Annual inspection, cleaning, and minor repairs by a sail loft might cost €500 to €1,000 per sail, while major recuts or panel replacements are significantly more. Even the choice of anti-fouling paint matters. A basic ablative paint might be cheaper per gallon, but a high-performance hard or copper-based paint, like Copper Coat, while expensive initially, potentially $300 per gallon, €3,000 to €5,000 plus for materials and application, can offer multi-year protection, saving on haul-out costs but requiring specific application techniques and periodic reactivation. Insurance is another area where costs can escalate beyond initial quotes, especially for blue water cruising. Premiums for a yacht valued at close to €1 million are already substantial, often 1 to 1.5% of the hull value annually, €10,000 to €15,000. However, insurers often impose specific requirements for extended offshore passages. This can include mandatory safety gear upgrades, e.g. specific EPIRB models, life raft servicing schedules, storm sails, mandated crew experience levels, restrictions on cruising areas, e.g. higher premiums or exclusions for high-latitude sailing or certain piracy hotspots, and, as mentioned, rigging replacement schedules. The deductible can also be significant, often a percentage of the hull value, meaning even covered repairs can involve substantial out-of-pocket expense. Furthermore, finding insurers willing to cover extensive blue water itineraries, especially outside standard cruising grounds, can be challenging and may require specialist brokers and higher premiums. Depreciation is often touted as being lower for premium brands like Hallberg Rossi, and while they do hold their value better than many production boats, they are not immune. The initial depreciation hit from new to nearly new is still significant. While the example cited in the original video showed used models holding value well, this was during an unusually inflated market. In more typical conditions, expecting a 15 to 20% drop in the first few years, followed by a slower decline, is more realistic. The key to minimizing depreciation lies in meticulous maintenance and sensible upgrades, but it remains an unavoidable cost of ownership. What often gets overlooked is that the options depreciate much faster than the base boat. That 42,000 euro lithium package or 27,000 euro generator won't add nearly that much to the resale value 5 years down the line. Buyers of used boats often expect these systems, but are unwilling to pay the full premium the original owner did. Therefore, while the base boat holds value well, the total investment, including options, will see a more significant depreciation percentage. Then there are the myriad smaller, often unanticipated costs. Upgrading the anchor from the standard Delta or Bruce type to a modern high-performance anchor like a Rockna, Mantis, or Spade, 1,000 to 2,000 euros, plus potentially upgrading the chain to high tensile, saving weight or increasing length for the same weight, is a common early upgrade for serious cruisers. Replacing safety gear as it expires, flares, EPIRB batteries, life raft servicing, 1,000 euros plus every 2 to 3 years, hydrostatic releases, is a constant cycle. Even replacing dock lines and fenders with high-quality versions suitable for a heavy displacement yacht adds up. Custom canvas work, perhaps a full cockpit enclosure to supplement the hard Dodger, 5,000 to 10,000 euros, or replacing worn winch and hatch covers, is another common expense. Interior upgrades like replacing upholstery foam after a few years, 2,000 euros plus, upgrading cabin lighting to more efficient LEDs, or adding custom storage solutions also contribute to the ongoing investment required. So, standing here, looking at my immaculate Hallberg Rossi 44, I have zero regrets. It's an incredible machine, capable, comfortable, and safe. But the journey from purchase price to truly ready to go and maintain for serious cruising involved a financial commitment far beyond the initial number. It wasn't just the options list from the factory, it was the commissioning reality, the personalization for my cruising, the proactive maintenance demanded by complex systems, and the non-negotiable requirements of safety and insurance for venturing offshore. For anyone considering a similar path, especially with a high-quality, systems-rich yacht like an HR, my advice is this: take the advertised price, add the options you know you'll want, factor in commissioning and immediate personalization, sales, electronics, safety gear, budget at least 5 to 7% of the boat's value annually for top-tier maintenance and insurance, not just the often quoted 1 to 2%, and then add a contingency fund for the things you haven't thought of yet, because they will come up. Owning a boat like this is a privilege, but understanding the true total cost of that privilege is crucial before you take the plunge. The hidden costs aren't meant to deter, but to inform. Forewarned is forearmed, especially when navigating the complex financial waters of premium yacht ownership.